I'm Miss Marcie from Winona Public Library, and today for Simply STEAM, we're going to be experimenting with some non-Newtonian fluids. This is a science activity where we're going to explore the properties of these fluids that behave a little bit differently than most. So I've got a bowl of water here and a measuring cup. I'm just going to pour the water in to the cup, and we're going to see what happens when I stir it around with my finger. I'm stirring. Can you see any changes? Anything happening in the water? Is it becoming hard for me to stir? Is it getting kind of crumbly? Nope, it's just water. It's the same as it's been. So this is a Newtonian fluid. Its viscosity, or its runniness, doesn't change when we apply force to it. But we're going to make something today where when we apply force to it, it does change and it becomes crumbly, almost like a solid. So somewhere between a liquid and a solid. So for this activity, you'll need some water, a bowl for mixing, a couple spoons, some cornstarch, and some dish soap. We're going to begin by mixing 1.5 parts cornstarch with 1 part water. Okay, so I've got my mixture here. You saw how I added a little bit of extra water at a point. If your mixture is too dry, you'll probably have to do that too. But what makes this a non-Newtonian fluid? Well, when I touch it, it cracks and breaks apart. You saw when I was using the water earlier, it was not crumbling into little pieces. That is a non-Newtonian fluid. When I apply force to it, its viscosity, or how runny it is, changes. Wow. This is super fun. And the more I squeeze it, the more crumbly it gets. And then when I let go, it just runs between my fingers. Oh, so great. But before we go, I'm going to show you how to make one more non-Newtonian fluid that's actually more like silly putty. Because you can't really do much with the Oobleck except let it run between your fingers, which is amazing. But with the silly putty one, you're actually going to be able to craft it into different shapes. So that's what's coming next. After I get this off my fingers. So next up, we've got the clay silly putty version of a non-Newtonian fluid. So I'm going to grab one of my other bowls. And then it's the same ratio. So about 1.5 cornstarch to 1 soap this time. So that's a big old tablespoon, and then I'm gonna put about a tablespoon's worth of soap into it, and then mix. So you can see now that I've created a soft clay out of soap and cornstarch. And this is another non-Newtonian fluid because when I squeeze it, it feels very hard. But then when I sort of mold it more gently, it's very soft. And it will also break apart into pieces sometimes, and then other times I can get it to stretch and flow more like a liquid. Whee! You can use any kind of dish soap to make this, whatever you have on hand. And I recommend making a small amount just because you are using up your dish soap. Once you're done with this clay, you won't be able to put it down the drain. That might clog your drain. So once you're finished playing with it, it does need to go in the trash. but it's pretty fun. If you have any food coloring or liquid watercolors at home, you could add color to the clay. Otherwise, it's fun to play with just white. And the nice thing is it's soap, so it's super easy to clean up at the end if any crumbs get left anywhere. So what are some fun things that you can do with non-Newtonian fluids? Well, one thing you can do is stir them with a spoon. That'll really show you how crumbly they are, and it's really, really fun. And you can try to predict how long it will take before it gets really difficult to move around. So maybe the first stir is pretty easy, but the harder you go, the more difficult it gets. Another thing you can do is hit the oobleck with your hand. Just poke it and observe what happens and how different that is from regular liquids. Like if this was a bowl of milk, it wouldn't be hard when I touched it with my finger. I'm not even making a dent. All right, and another thing you can try is putting your oobleck in a little glass and letting it sit for a few hours. And what's actually going to happen is the cornstarch and water will separate into their parts as it sits there on the counter. All right, so that's it for today, everyone. I hope you have fun playing with your oobleck. Oh, it looks so cool. Just be careful not to pour it out of the bowl. We'll see you next time.